Not every craving means you need more food, and often with the hunger elements of things in the fitness journey, which is bound to be a thing that's going to happen, particularly if you're trying to control your calories at a maintenance or even a deficit, you need to be able to discern what kind of hunger signals are suggesting what and how to solve the different kinds. Because to the new average person the block just starting, they can seem the same, but the takeaways are very different and they present different things that are worth addressing. So let's go through them. So the first thing that holds people back is the discernment of the physical hunger thing. And I'm going to put this into two different categories. So we're going to actually call them two different things on the list. Maybe it's the four things if I wrote down three beforehand. One is the hunger based on the caloric balance over time. So this is just more of a boring one. If you are consuming less calories than you're burning, your body is digging into its stored energy, its body fat. There is an evolutionary biology sense that you are starving. It might sound ridiculous. You might be 200 pounds overweight, but the detection process on our evolutionary biological state, which hasn't really updated like switch overnight to what, industrialization and modern food practices have changed, is a thing of, okay, there's less available food. I'm digging into my storage that's going to help me prevent starvation and malnutrition. I need to give extra signals to the brain to say, can you find more food? Because if this keeps on going on forever and I can't find food, I'll eventually starve to death. This might feel ridiculous. You might be like, dude, I got like chips in the cupboard like 2 meters away. I'm fine. I'm not going to starve overnight. I've got 50 pounds to lose, etc. Sounds ridiculous, but this is part of the mechanism. And there's hormones called leptin and ghrelin that affect you, like how hungry you are and how satiated you are. These are basically affected by these things. But overall, it speaks to the whole evolutionary biology process of a scarcity of food interpretation in your brain that could lead to starvation. So it is worth knowing that that is just part of the process. But the takeaways can be handy because this is also a reason why it can be very, very, very effective. And I do this for my coaching. And if you don't, you should really consider this. And if you don't know how, you should reach out for coaching. I'm just being honest. You need to know that there's times to push on for a caloric deficit and there's times you need to maintain. Reason being, the deficit might, again, get you some body fat loss. Let's say that's your goal. But over time, there's going to be greater and greater hunger signals as our brain has determined, okay, there's 1 week with not enough food coming in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and it starts to accelerate those hunger signals because it's detecting more of a, oh crap, what's going to happen here? We need to sort this out now because now it's a trend. It's not just 1 day of less food availability. It's been like 5 weeks, 35 days. And one of the good reasons to do a maintenance phase in strategic times is to then give the brain essentially the signal that, hey, we've got the same amount of food coming in that we're burning. We're okay. We're not digging into that fuel storage. Yes, we did a little while ago. That might have just been a one-off random blob, but hey, now we're sorted. So again, very important to have the maintenance periods, even for that reason. There's other kinds of psychological reasons why it turns from the I don't get to have these foods now to not yet. That leads to people to have better adherence and people can't just push 24/7 and it's not always appropriate to try and lose weight 52 weeks of the year, insert Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever. These are important considerations. I might discuss that more in another video, the importance of maintaining how to do it right and why you've got to do it right. But again, it's the first thing to understand is there is just a basic caloric hunger signaling. The second version of hunger is just based on the satiation within your stomach. So you can even have enough calories. You can, let's say you're just chugging down olive oil and maple syrup. You sick bastard, I know why you do that. You might have your stomach, let's say the content's like this, just for conceptual sake. You might then fill it up like 2,000 calories just because you're chugging syrup and oil. That sounds so rank the more we discuss it. And it only takes up 25% of your stomach. So there is a thing where, yes, that brain got that whole detection. There's enough calories coming in. We're cool. We're not going to starve. But I've just got I've got more in my stomach I could fill. I can use this to get extra food storage for future times. I just like the feeling of being full because I've conditioned myself over time to feeling that way. I've had enough food. I'm full. I've had enough. It's something that people just have with growing up as part of their family settings, etc. So you've got that element as well. So this also speaks for the solving situation of why it's important to, at times, particularly if you have a larger stomach size, etc., is to fill up at least a good portion of your stomach volume contents. It doesn't have to be 100%, and you don't want to necessarily stretch that to ungodly amounts over time. So now you need this much food to fill up your now larger stomach content that you can fill up. But at least push in towards more of the end range and the boundaries. So suddenly you might be using more satiating foods in general. This can be any different versions of protein, carbs, fats, but overall vegetables are very handy. Carbohydrates in general might be more handy than fats in general. It might be not going for just purely sugary foods. It might be eating foods that have this more volume innately, like I know Greek yogurt compared to a shake, things like that. So that's number 2. Number 3 is emotional hunger. So this might be a funny one to hear, but being stressed actually suppresses appetite more than it actually increases it. It's on a pure physiological basis. But on a psychological basis, you have a thing where cortisol can go up and people want to just bring in extra carbs and sugars to blunt that cortisol response. Or they just get a certain amount of comfort from eating when they're stressed. It takes them away from the problem and gets them towards a temporary enjoyment sake. Of course, the issue is that once you've had that food, the stress is still back, and now you've got the stress of feeling like I broke my diet, or I had food when I wasn't even in a position to really enjoy it, because in the back of my brain, I really know I need to solve that stress as soon as this muffin's done. Or hey, even if it's an apple or something healthy, you still know that stress needs to be resolved before you can relax. So that's the third thing to really understand. So with the emotional style hunger, on average, I've shifted over time. I used to work with it a little bit, like the idea of, okay, you might add more of your snacks towards when you're emotionally more stressed. I do often just, if I know it's a really stressful time of life, people put their maintenance phases in that time, just so it's not using as much willpower. But honestly, I'm learning over time, the correct approach is actually just to, it's rare there's the right approach, just completely not give into it at all. Because you get no satisfaction from it. It's one of the most brutal food scenarios people can get themselves into the day. Because often when you eat food, there'll be a version of satisfaction versus how many calories you cashed in to get that satisfaction. That one is almost entirely net negative, because it just only resolves when the stress is resolved. So finding some good stress management tactics. Some people it's a walk. Some people it's just really aggressively focusing on their problems, locking in, and then they actually feel good once it's done. Compartmentalizing, I'm not going to try and be a psychologist here, but not trying to use food to fill in that gap, because 4 minutes later when the food's gone, the problem's still there, and damn it, I've got 400 less calories to navigate nighttime when I actually wanted it and needed it. And then number 4 is just habit hunger. So habit hunger is the idea of, I'm used to just eating at 3 p.m. It's just normal for me, and more so I've been doing it for years. This isn't something that's built up overnight. This is something that happens across time. So with the 4 years of eating at 3 p.m. kind of thing, you could just be going about whatever in a day, and your body will give hunger signals because it recognizes the feeding time. You might notice your pets are like this. It's funny, we can be a similar way. Some of us are more sophisticated than their pets, some aren't. Some of us definitely aren't as cute. Anyway, that's a whole another side tangent. But overall, that just is a consideration. So if you are trying to move your food in different areas throughout the day, there's a few different ways you can do it. I would argue it might be just somewhat nicer to work within your internal hunger circadian rhythm of sorts. So like, okay, I'm hungry at 2 p.m. I might put food at 2 p.m. versus artificially force it at 12 and then try and mentally persevere at 2 p.m. Just work with your actual hunger. If you are trying to completely reset, or you've got some really bad habits that are, hey, maybe it's that emotional hunger from step 3 because you're always stressed around that 3 p.m. time and you weren't actually on a more of a physiological basis as hunger, you might be just trying to scrap that. It might be a game of just having a few weeks where you're getting through, or changing that to, I don't know, no calorie drinks, water, whatever it is to get yourself through, Jelly Light. Just to like decrease that signal in the brain until you can start to put more calories towards the new times that you want to have as your new habit hunger times. And that might be times that are just more compatible with fat loss when you actually need it, that match your sticking points throughout the day. So these are the 4 different hunger points. Solving all 4 is essential. Often people can be completely good on 2 or 3, but have 1 or 2 that stick out and lag out. Unfortunately, if you don't address all 4, the first 2 or 3 can be great, but the 1 to 2 can really lag back your results. If you want some help with trying to navigate all 4, reach out for coaching. If you are not interested in coaching or just not convinced just yet, please just in the next week having a quick assessment through your life of all four. When do all four pop up? And what are some of the solutions I might know that can actually help address this based on the video? Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.